Perfect. I am ready here. All right, it's 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock was supposed to be the starting time of the class. It's 7:02 in fact. So I'm not going to, while people come in, let me start off with introductions for everyone. Okay. Okay. So today's batch is going to be exclusively in English, not in Hindi. So my name, quick introduction. My name is, let me write an introduction here. Give me a yes. I'm assuming you all can see the board. So my name is Ashwin. That's my name. So that's me. I currently live in Mumbai. Okay, the city which has the highest density of population throughout the country. Okay. Now I graduated from IIT Bombay in 2011. Sorry. 2011. I did my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. That's what I did. For those of you who don't know what mechanical engineering is, it's the study of machines. So I designed a lot of machines. I spent a lot of time designing and racing automobiles. So I was a part of this team that's called the Formula SA. How many of you have heard about Formula One? If you have heard about Formula One, please click on yes. How many of you have heard about Formula One? Lots of you have heard. So I used to design components for the Formula One cars and actually race them. So that's what I used to do in IIT, automobile engineering, designing vehicles, designing engines, making them fast. Yes, I used to be a big fan of Formula One. Now I don't get the time to watch it a lot. So this is my background. In terms of my hobbies, I'm a I'm a huge sports fan. So what you'll see that I'll give you a lot of sports examples. I follow sports a lot, I watch sports a lot, and I believe that sports is a very important part of life. And we'll give you a lot of examples related to sports, right? Two of my favorite sports, my top sport, can you guess what my top sport is? My top sport is not cricket. My top sport is actually football. That's my top sport. When I was a child, when I was your age, I used to play cricket more. But with time, I realized cricket is too long a game. Now T20 is still shorter. I spend a lot of time, used to spend a lot of time watching cricket, but now I don't. I just watch the highlights, right? And India is doing very well now. So this is largely what a bit of background about me. And I would love over the course of the next few weeks, I would love to know more about you as well. Ahish, gaming I used to do as a child. I used to play FIFA a lot, but now I'm an adult, so I don't get a lot of time to do gaming. And plus, it's not good for the eyes, so I don't do that a lot. And I would strongly recommend that you all restrict your game. I know that many of you are PUBG fans here, right? I know today's generation lives and swears by PUBG. I've still not played PUBG till now. I don't know what it looks like, but all the students I teach keep talking about PUBG. So I'm very intrigued on what PUBG really is. See, I knew lots of people here are PUBG fans. I want to know what it is about the game PUBG that attracts you so much and makes you waste so much time on it. So that's very interesting for me to know. Anyway, so that's a bit about me. Let's now basically move on to the agenda for today. I know it's very addictive. It's very addictive and realistic. And you will have one teacher who will later teach you, who is actually a very big PUBG fan as well. You'll be very interested to speak to him. He'll sometime teach you something later. Anyway, got it. So let's now move on. Basic ground rules for today is I want the class to be very interactive, right? A science class is very different from a mathematics class. In mathematics, you have to do a lot of solving. In science, you have to do a lot of thinking. There is basically a lot of brain work that you need to do. So I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions, right? And I want you to interact with me over chat, over yes or no questions, raising hands, answering polls. I want you to do a lot. There aren't going to be a lot of calculations in what we are doing. A lot of this is going to just involve thinking, right? So give me a yes, basically, if you are really enthused in interacting with me, because today's class is going to be an interactive journey. And I'm going to make you think a lot, make you wonder a lot, because that's what science is all about. Okay. So are you all ready to start? It's 7:07. I'm not going to do any more random nonsense talk anymore. I'm going to actually dive into your first lesson. So I hope all of you are ready and all of you can hear me very well. So going to do a quick sound check because I'm not sure how well my voice is audible. I have a poll in front of you. If you can hear me clearly and see everything clearly, please answer the poll accordingly. I'm going to keep on speaking so that I know exactly how clearly my voice is audible for all of you. I want to make sure that every person is able to hear my voice well and see what I'm writing well. So please answer that poll. All right. I think a majority of you, more than 97, 98% of you are able to hear me well, which means there is no problem with the sound. That is good news for me. Amazing. All right. Yeah, net might be slow. Unfortunately, what to do? It's a problem with some people. I will, for those of you for whom net is slow, just make sure that you turn off your own video. Don't display your face. If you turn off your own video, the internet usage will be lesser and you'll be able to you'll experience lesser lag and faster video, right? So just make sure that you take care of that in case your internet is slow. Let me now come back to my board. Perfect. Okay. So let's start off the first class. The first class today is an introductory class in a very, very important topic, which is the basis of all things in physics, which is motion, right? Physics, in fact, is referred to as a study of motion, objects and objects in motion. Physics actually is the study of motion. So in today's class, I'm not going to burden you into examination related things a lot. I just want to ease you into the lesson so that you feel very comfortable with science of 9th standard. So motion happens to be chapter 8 in your textbook. We'll start with physics first because that's usually the most intuitive, right? So I have a question. I'm going to start off with a question. Okay. We all know that motion occurs when objects move. Okay. So for instance, if you all can see my hand moving here, right? Can you see my hand moving here? So I can say that my hand is in motion. Okay. Motion occurs when objects move. Okay. Now motion basically, if I ask you, is there anything which is not in motion? Why don't you tell me one thing that is not in motion? Okay. And I'm going to disprove you right now. Okay. Why don't you tell me one thing around you which is not in motion? Put your responses on your chat. I'll be able to see who's telling what. Okay. Geeta feels that the book is not in motion. Sai Kiran feels that the walls are not in motion. Okay. Okay. Wall is not in motion. Space is not in motion. Okay. Swayam feels the chair is not in motion. Krishi feels the desk is not in motion. Krish feels his TV is not in motion. Shraddha made a very smart statement that everything is motion, and we'll come to that. Okay. Phone, wardrobe, mobile. Okay, perfect, right? So all of us usually feel that when we see something, let's say for instance, I am seeing my bottle which was lying on my table, right? If I look at it, it feels that it is not in motion, right? But the reality is that you can never say that something is not in motion. You can never say something is not in motion. Right? You can never say something is not in motion. Now, why is that? Right? Now, think of that object that you mentioned. Think of the chair that you talked about. Think of the desk that you thought about. Now, in your perspective, it is obviously at rest. But imagine the desk is a part of the earth, isn't it? Desk is a part of the earth. Now, we know that the earth, so let's say this is the earth. Let me draw it with a different color. Okay. And let's say you are sitting here in a house and here is a desk here. Now, even though when in your house, from your perspective, the desk is not moving, the whole earth is moving around the sun. So if you were an ant sitting on the sun, even though that ant would get burned, let's say you were a super ant who's sitting near the sun. For that ant, what is happening is the desk and you are moving around the earth. So for that ant, the desk and you are in motion, right? So this is the foremost thing you need to remember, right? Which is motion, and there is a word for it. Motion is relative, not absolute. Right? Remember this line. This is not from the point of view of an examination, but from the point of view of a concept, that the motion of a body is not relative, is not absolute, it is always relative. You can never say that something is completely at rest or something is completely at motion. The correct statement is always that for instance, all of you said that the book is not moving, right? So the correct statement is the book is not moving according to me. According to someone else, it might be moving. According to an ant on the sun, it is moving. According to a car moving on the road, you will appear moving, right? How many of you have, now I know that all of you are locked down. All of you must have traveled by the train, right? All of you must have traveled by a train or walked in a car. All of you must have done that, right? If you ever notice, especially when one of the things that used to fascinate me when I was a child is when you're sitting in a train, all the trees appear to move in the opposite direction, right? All the trees appear to move in the opposite direction. Okay. Then basically, in fact, there are some wrong things that are always taught to us. All of us are taught that, someone mentioned this also, that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Right? How many of you have studied this in geography? Click on yes. This is something I have also studied. This is taught in our textbooks. Not everything that we are taught in the textbook is correct, right? This is a line which you might have seen a lot of times, right? You're told that there is this earth. What happens is this beautiful sun starts off in the east is here. It starts off by noon, it comes on top, and by late evening, it goes here. This is what all of you must have studied, okay? But the reality is that this is an absolute nonsense statement. It's a wrong statement. It's not scientifically correct. It's a scientifically wrong statement. Why? Because from the correct statement to make is from the perspective of the earth. For a person sitting on earth, the sun rises in the east and the sun sets in the west. If you ask a person sitting on the sun, you know what the person would say? The person would say the earth rises in the west and sets in the east. That's what the person sitting on the sun would say. So the perspective of motion is different in different places, right? Because on the sun, actually what happens is the earth will feel that it is moving from west to east. Many of us also think that the earth moves around the sun, right? This is also something, there are many wrong statements we are taught. We are also taught that the earth moves around the sun. How many of you have learned this? The earth moves around the sun. Give me a yes if you have learned this. This is all there part of many of our textbook teachers end up teaching us wrong things, right? This is also not an entirely accurate statement. The earth really does not move around the sun, right? For some people, the sun moves around the earth. For some people, the earth moves around the sun. The correct statement is the sun and earth both move around each other. It depends on who is observing. Okay, so by my first few examples, it must be very clear to you, and this is something you should put it in your head, that Moksha, it's not true what Moksha is saying. Moksha is saying that the sun does not revolve. That's not true at all. The sun also revolves around the galaxies, right? The sun also revolves around the galaxies. So all of us are taught a lot of these wrong things because of which we get this wrong notion, right? If you really analyze the motion of the sun, in fact, let me ask you a simple question. What is the galaxy we are all a part of? What galaxy are we all a part of? I think all of you know this. You must have studied it in astronomy or something like that. What galaxy are we a part of? Yeah, we are all part of the Milky Way galaxy. That's the galaxy we are part of, right? So what happens is this galaxy is a massive cluster of clouds. It's a massive cluster of stars. And our solar system is somewhere here. This is where our solar system is. Very small. It's basically a very, very small dot in this entire spectrum of the universe. There's a famous photo, which in fact I want to share with you. Let me show you how small it is and how it actually moves around everything. So there's this famous photo called the pale blue dot. I'm going to show you that. Give me a second, students. It's called the pale blue dot. That will tell you the scale of our universe. Okay, so this is the photo. Let me share my screen. Okay, how many of you can see this? Give me a second, it's loading. Okay, so can you see this? So if you look at this, where my hand is pointing, there's a small dot, right? There's a small dot. Can you see that? Give me a yes if you can see that. Where the arrow is pointing, there is a small dot. So this is the view of the solar system as viewed from the center of the galaxy. That's how small we are, right? So even though the solar system seems so big, this is how small they are, and that's how small we are. And for the center of the galaxy, the entire sun and the earth are moving together, right? That's how small we are. I'll send you this picture in the WhatsApp group. It's a very fascinating picture. It was taken by this mission called Voyager 1, which went as far as the external parts of the solar system and took this picture. Okay. Now coming back to my main point, which is, sorry guys. Okay. So coming back to my main point, what I'm essentially saying is, if you are at the center if you view it from the center of the galaxy, if you're someone who's sitting here, the entire sun also seems to revolve around the center of the galaxy. So that way we can never say that any motion is absolute. Motion is always relative. So the first line which I want you to remember for the rest of your life is motion is always relative. Always relative. Relative means it depends on the person who is viewing it, right? So for me, the motion of something would be different. For someone else, the motion of something is different. So let me give you another classic example, right? How many of you have, when you were coming from school or coming from college, has there been sudden rain? How many of you have tried getting wet in the rain? Okay, almost a lot of you. It has happened to a lot of you, right? Now, what happens is a very interesting thing, right? How many of you have a spectacle? How many of you wear spectacles? Give me a yes if you wear a spectacle. Glasses? You all have glasses? Now, there's a very interesting and very irritating thing that happens to people with glasses in the rain, right? When you try walking in the rain, so let's say I'm going to draw it out to you. Okay? So let's say this is you. And let's say you are a person with these big spectacles. Okay? That's you. Now, there are two things you can do. Okay? You can either stay still and walk very, very slowly, in which case the rain will fall straight and fall through the cracks of your spectacles. But if you want to avoid the rain, sometimes all of us do a very foolish thing. What we try to do is we try to run. But when we run, what happens? The rain starts hitting you and hitting you at an angle. Have you experienced this? Have you experienced this? This happens a lot of times. When you run in water, it starts splashing on the lens. Now for the same person, so in the same road, one person feels that the rain is falling straight, right? And another person feels that the rain is coming at an angle. Now, which of them is true? There is only one rain. How can the same rain fall straight down and at an angle? It cannot do that. That basically tells you when it comes to motion, there is no absolute truth. Someone asked me what is absolute. Absolute means you can't say for sure that there is one answer for motion, right? Motion always depends on the person who is observing it, right? So that is what I mean by absolute. There is not one fixed answer when it comes to describing something. Okay, so that's what you mean. It's not absolute, it is relative. That's why I said that motion is relative. So the same rain falls straight on one person, but if that person, in fact, running in the rain is the most stupid thing you can do. When you start running in the rain, what will happen is the rain will start. In fact, many of you, there is a very Suhani, what you've said is partly correct, but the wind is not the main reason why the rain changes its direction. The main reason why it changes the direction is when you start running, the perspective of motion completely changes, right? In fact, there's a good, let me ask you a quick question to make sure how you're thinking about this. Let's say you are this person, okay? And the rain is initially falling like this, okay? You are running into a water zone like this. You are running into a rain zone. You are running like this at a high speed. How should you hold your umbrella? This is my question to you. How should you hold your umbrella? I'm disabling chat. I'll raise a poll. The question is, how should you, and this is something very intuitive. The thing about physics is it's very intuitive. You can think. Should you hold your umbrella? Okay, let me ask you a few options. Option A, you hold it. So let's say this is the rain. You hold it like this and run. Option B. So we have this habit of keeping our umbrellas like this. Like second option, you keep your umbrella straight up. And third option, you keep your umbrella like this. Okay, what is the correct option? I'm going to give you a poll. Let's see how you think about this. Okay, so only 3 options. Ignore D option. I have disabled chat. Answer it on the poll. It's fairly obvious. Some of you still feel that, okay, there are a lot of varied answers. I'm going to wait till each one of you answers. This is something we all experience. So I think it's something physics. The good thing about physics is it's something we experience in our real life. Okay, around 90 of you have answered. I'm going to wait 5 more seconds and then end the poll. Okay, perfect. Let me end the poll and share the results. So majority of you feel C is the correct answer. Some of you feel that you will hold the umbrella straight and some of you feel that it's better to hold it behind. So let me tell you the right strategy to hold it is this. Why? Because if it is raining just now and you should try it whenever it starts. I heard that it started raining in many places some time back, right? So next time it rains, just try to do, and after all this coronavirus thing is done, don't go outside now. After all of this is done, next time try walking in the rain. You will realize that the moment you start walking faster, rain starts hitting you, right? And that is why if the rain comes like this, the right way to hold the umbrella is perpendicular to the rain. That's why I say that the correct answer is option C. That's the best way. Will ensure that you will get wet the least, right? You should always hold it perpendicular to the direction, right? So these are different examples that illustrate the relative nature of motion, right? These illustrate the relative nature of motion. And that is what the first part of your chapter really talks about. It really tells us that an object may seem, again, I'm going to write some lines. You need not write it. I'll anyway send these notes. I just want you to understand this concept. An object seems stationary to some things, to some person, but moving to another person. The same object may seem moving in different directions to different people, right? So like I gave you the example. If you're sitting in a bus, people sit outside may seem to be in the backward direction, but people sitting inside will seem stationary, right? So you will see the person sitting next to you, you'll see that he's at rest, but for a person sitting outside, he is moving along with the bus. And that is the key nature of motion, okay? Now, with this in mind, let me ask you one more very interesting question, okay? I'm not going to tell you in detail what the answer is, but it's an interesting puzzle which has perplexed me. Let's say you're in a bus. Okay. let's say you're in a bus. Let's say you are sitting here. That's you. Sorry for the bad diagram. My diagrams are not so good. Okay. Let's say that is you. Now, what is happening is this bus is moving with a speed of v. It's moving at some speed. Let's say it's moving at 50 kilometers per hour. It's moving at a pretty high speed. Okay. It's moving at a pretty high speed. Now, my question to you is, you have, let's say you have a coin. You have a coin in your hand, right? You've held this coin. I'm going to denote that coin in blue. Okay. And you drop the coin. Let's say you drop the coin. Now, my question to you is, the coin can go in three ways. It can either fall straight down at the floor of the bus, or it can fall behind because the bus would have moved forward, or it can fall here. So it can either fall at A, B, or C. So my question to you is, where will the coin fall? Will it fall straight down, or will it fall slightly behind because the bus would have moved a bit by the time it came down, and or would it fall ahead? So I'm going to start a poll again for all of you. Stop sharing this poll. All of these will tell you basically how motion happens. Motion is very fascinating. Okay, the poll has started. Okay, I think I confused you a bit. Many of you are giving wrong answers here. And you'll be surprised at the answer. Okay. All right. I'm going to wait for 10 more minutes, not 10 more seconds till I get every answer. All right. So I'm almost up to 90 votes. I'll just wait for 90 votes. I got 87, 88. All right. Let me end the poll. And let me share your results so that you know what majority of people have answered. So majority of people think that it will fall behind, right? Because obviously if I drop it, by the time it falls down, the bus would have moved ahead, so it will fall behind. The correct answer, and you'll be surprised at this, is it will fall straight down. It will fall exactly straight down. Now this might be very surprising for a lot of you, right? Many people must be thinking that if the coin is falling like this, it should obviously move behind. I'm not going to tell you the reason for this, right? I will explain that reason later. Next time you are basically moving in a car or in a bus or in a train, try dropping something and see if it falls behind or forward or in the same place. You will see that it always falls in the same place. And the reason is that when you're dropping the coil is also moving at the same velocity as the entire bus, and hence it will move in the same motion as you. So it will fall exactly straight down. Okay. And yes, this is basically, so let's ignore, coin is not affected by wind speed so much, Moksha, right? So let's ignore wind speed for now. And let's say it's a closed vehicle where all the windows are closed. Okay. So that basically is a very fascinating thing about this. You will understand this later by the end of this class on why this happens, right? What are the calculations involved in this? Okay. So Ani, wind is not so much that it will start moving a coin, right? Wind is not so much. I understand what you have written, but it will fall exactly straight down. And this is what we call sometime as inertia. And we'll study more about this later. Okay. In fact, let me ask you one more question, one more fascinating, physics has a lot of these fascinating examples. Okay. Let me ask you one more question and see how you answer it this time. And all of these answers, I'm not going to tell you the explanation now. By the end of this class, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to answer many of these. Let me give you a different example. So let's, for instance, take a hunter. Sorry, I've drawn 6 legs for a hunter. Sorry, there are only 4 legs. My drawing is so terrible. Okay. So let's say there is this hunter. Okay. Let's say he has this gun. Okay. And what this hunter is trying to do, right? This hunter is on top of a, let's say there is this tree and he's on top of this tree. And he's basically observing one more. He's observing one more monkey here. Sorry for the extremely bad diagrams. There's this monkey here. Okay. That's how well I can draw a monkey, unfortunately. Okay. Now, what this hunter wants to do is exactly he wants to hit this monkey with a tranquilizer. All of you know what a tranquilizer is. A tranquilizer is something that is used to basically make animals unconscious, not to kill it, but to make it unconscious so that we can treat it. Right? This is what this person wants to do. So, but the monkey is very smart. Right? The moment it hears the sound of a bullet, it immediately drops down. Right? The moment it hears the sound of a bullet, it will drop down. It will start falling straight from the tree. It will not move. It will not jump. It will just, so imagine it is holding this. It will just leave it and fall straight under the influence of gravity. So my question to you is, where should the hunter aim so as to hit the monkey? So his options are this. He can either aim straight, this is option A, or he can know that the moment he hears it, the monkey will jump down. So he can aim it down. B. My question to you is, where should he aim? Again, I'm going to disable chat. I'm going to ask you a poll. Let's see how you're able to think about it. Okay. I'm going to start poll again. Only two options, A or B. Tell me, where should the hunter shoot? Because the moment the sound is there, the monkey will drop down. This is also a very fascinating physics question. You will probably not understand why, but I'm telling you, by the end of this chapter, you will have a better appreciation of why this motion happens. Okay, around 85 of you have voted already. All right, perfect. I'm going to end the poll. Now 90 of you have voted, and let me share your answers again. Okay. Oh, wait. Majority have answered. What happened? I relaunched the poll, I think. Sorry, guys. Please answer it again. I think I relaunched the poll. I pressed it twice. Okay. Thank you guys for quickly answering. Sorry for that mistake. Okay. I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. Again, majority of you think that you have to aim it down because the monkey is anyway going to fall down. Let's assume ignore air resistance and all. The correct answer here is this. You have to aim it straight, not aim it down. Now, many of you would be wondering why. Why should you aim it straight? Because the monkey is anyway going to fall down. Okay. If you think about it, if the monkey falls down, the bullet will also not move straight. The bullet will also go down like this because bullet is also has the same effect on gravity as the monkey has. So if you aim it straight, it will definitely, by the time the monkey goes down, the bullet will also go down. So the correct way to aim it is downwards like this. So what physics helps you do, this lesson in motion helps you do, is to analyze problems like this. Many problems like this, like very clearly, a majority of you have a wrong intuition here. So this lesson on motion will give you the necessary tools. It will give you the necessary frameworks and tools which will help you analyze situation like this. That's why this is considered such a beautiful lesson. It helps you analyze motion, how things will move, how parts will move. And that's why I really love teaching this lesson. And I hope this has sparked your interest enough. Both of these situations have sparked your interest enough for us to proceed through with the rest of this lesson. Okay. Give me a yes if you are as excited about me as proceeding about this lesson. Okay, perfect. All right. Now you may have a lot of doubts about this. Don't worry. We'll learn all the reasons of why this happens and all. So I've created that suspense so that you understand how all of this happens by the end of this lesson. Okay. So let's now start with the first part, which is how do you describe motion? Okay. How do you really describe motion? Okay. Now, the first thing to know if you want to describe motion is basically two things. First, you have to answer two questions. Who is the observer? So whenever we are analyzing motion, then the observer is us, right? So if I am looking at a car, the observer is me. If you are looking at a car, the observer is you. If basically a person sitting on a bus is looking at a car, the observer is the person sitting on the bus, right? So whenever you are analyzing motion, you have to be very clear about who is basically the observer. The second thing is a very technical point is what is the reference point, right? What is the reference point? Now, this might seem a new word for all of you, the word reference point. And let me tell you the example of reference point using an example, okay? Let's say, and I'm going to open chat for you, okay? My question is, let's say I ask you how to go to Mumbai from Delhi. Okay, let's say I ask you how to go to Mumbai from Delhi. What will your answers be? Can I tell you? Is this a correct answer? Is this an appropriate answer? This is not an appropriate answer, right? Can I say just go straight? You cannot say that, right? So basically, if you want the answers to basically be very complete, you have to say where to start. And so, for instance, okay, so one of the answers is Harinakshi and Vishwanath have given me an answer. By bus, by train. Let's take these two answers. Okay, let's ignore these two. Let's take these two answers. Okay, or by aeroplane. Okay, let's say I'm a new person. If you just say by aeroplane, is that answer enough? Will I be able to tell? Will that person be able to navigate it? Where should I take that aeroplane from exactly? Saikir has told first go to railway station. You have to tell them what is the railway station, which railway station. Or first go to airport. Then you have to tell them which airport, right? How far is it? Where is it far from, right? So that is basically how you would describe the position of anything, right? Yes, Google Maps nowadays you can use, but even in Google Maps, you have to basically say, if you look at Google Maps, let me in fact show you Siri Maps. Let me start Siri Maps, okay? So I'm going to basically take Siri Maps. Let's say I want to search the name of search a place, right? Let me basically search Bangalore. Okay, let me search Bangalore. Let me search Bangalore. All right. If I want the directions, right? Yes, please avoid traveling. This is just on maps. I'm just doing virtual traveling. Okay. If I want directions, look at this direction. It is asking me my location. So my location is the reference point. Even Google Maps needs a starting point. If I don't give the location, it will not give me any route, right? I have to give a starting location for it to give me a route. And that is why we say that there is the need of a starting point for us to define any motion. For any motion, there is a starting point. So if I try to find the route now, what is it saying? What is it saying? It's saying, please enter an origin. Without this origin, it will not be able to tell you a route, right? So if you want to basically find out the motion needed for anything, you definitely need an origin. And that origin is what we call the reference point. The starting point of all motion is what we call the reference point of motion. Okay. So coming back here. So the reference point, also called as the origin, is where we take all measurements from. It is impossible to find out the position of an object without a reference point. Just like It is impossible for maps to give me a route without an origin, without an initial location. It is impossible for you to describe a motion without a starting point. If you want to note this down, this is the line you should note down. This is the first important definition. To specify the position, you always need to give a reference point called as origin. To specify the position, yes, please note it. You always need an origin. Okay, that's what you always need. Okay, write this down. Then I'm going to ask you a very interesting question after this. Give me a yes the moment you have written this down, and then I'll ask you an interesting question. Okay, Santosh has written this. I see only 20 yeses. I will wait till everyone has written, then only move on. This is the first thing you need to write today. I'm not going to make you write a lot today because today is the first class and this is relatively an easy chapter. Okay. Okay, it's okay if you have not kept a book. I will share this with you. Next time, please ensure that you get a book with you. Okay, perfect. Please click on yes if you're done. I can see 44 yeses. Okay, perfect. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a very interesting question about choice of origin. Right? It's a very interesting question about choice and origin. Let me give you the question first and then let me draw a scale. Oh, sorry guys. It's not a straight line. Let me make a straight line. Okay, now I think it will be a straight line. So let's draw this like this. In fact, let me wait. Give me a second. Let me draw a horizontal line. That's much more easier to represent. Okay, so let's say there is a straight road with a lot of markings like this. Okay, so let's say this is 0.01 kilometer, 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let's say this is that. All right. Okay, guys, if you want the last point, you can write this. Okay, it's there. It's visible on top. I'm just going to move forward. Okay, let's say we have an object. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Let's say we have an object here. Okay, here is an object. I want to tell where is this object. Okay, where is this object? What is the origin I must choose? There is an origin here, origin 1, which is A, and there is one more reference point, which is here, which is B. Which is the correct origin? To describe the position of the object. Which is the correct origin? Okay. Option A, A. Option B, B. Option C, both A and B. And option C, D, neither A nor B. Okay. Let me give you the correct options. I'm going to give you options to do. You will see a poll now. Okay, you'll see a poll. Tell me which is the correct origin to describe the position. Okay, around 70 of you have answered. Very good. Come on, guys. I want at least 90 people to answer every time. So, Shivraj, I've just asked you if you want to describe where the object is. What is the correct origin? So, if someone asks you where is the object, with respect to what can you tell where is the object? That's the question. Okay, around 84, 85, 86 of you have told this. I'm going to end the poll. All right, again, very varied results. I'm going to share the results with you. A majority of you, 35% of you have said A is the correct origin. Very few of you have said B only. Overwhelming 40% of you have said C is the correct answer, but many people say neither A nor B is the correct answer. You want to know what the correct answer is? The correct answer is what the majority of you have said, which is both A and B can be chosen as origins, right? So this is a key lesson I want you to remember. Origin does not always mean position 0. Does not always lie at 0. Origin does not always lie at 0, right? Origin, choice of origin is as per convenience of the observer. For those, Deepa, since you're not understanding, let me give you an example to do that. Now, if I want to say where is object, there is the object. There are two ways of telling this. You can say that it is 4 kilometers to the left, right of A. You can also say that it is 5 kilometers to the left of B. Both of them are correct. Is any one of them wrong? Both of them are correct. Now, the moment you say to the right of A, that means A is treated as the reference point because you are referencing A when you are describing the position of the object. The moment you are saying to the left of B, you are basically saying that B is my reference point. And whenever, so for instance, if someone asks you where is your school, some people might say it is 2 kilometers to the east of this place. Some other person might say it is 3 kilometers to the west of this place. Does that mean one person is correct, the other person is wrong? No. Each of them is correct in their own way because the reference point for different people is always different. It is entirely as per their convenience. So the choice of origin, what origin you have to take, entirely depends on what is convenient, right? What is easy to describe. Yes, you can also say that the origin is on 4. So Priyanka, if I place the origin here, you can also say that it is at the point C. That can also be the origin, right? The reference point can be whatever. Generally, reference points are well known and prominent. Let me tell you what I mean by this. For instance, if this is what we call as landmarks, right? So for instance, if many of you probably, I have been to this city called Hubli once. How many of you are from Hubli? Give me a yes if you are from Hubli. Okay, many of you are from Hubli. So now, if you want to tell anyone the direction for Hubli, in any place in Hubli, right? One of the landmarks we use, if there is a new person going to Hubli, one of the landmarks we use is Ayodhya Hotel, right? We say that come to Ayodhya Hotel, come 4 kilometers from Ayodhya Hotel, right? So that is a landmark because everyone knows Ayodhya Hotel. Everyone knows the bus stand there, right? So there are some landmarks. So those are more convenient reference points. If you tell someone, come from basically that this place is 5 kilometers from my friend's house, everyone might not know the name of your, the location of your friend's house. So that is not a good reference point. For people who know your friend's house, that's a good reference point. But for everyone, something like the bus stand, the railway station, the airport, these are all better reference points, right? So the choice of reference point 1, you can use any reference point, but you should choose that reference point which is well known and prominent. That is how it is easier to describe the motion of a place, right? For instance, in Mumbai, if you want to describe anything, The way we describe it is we describe it with respect to the nearest mall, with respect to the nearest railway station. That is how we describe it. Because malls and railway stations are something that everyone knows. So it is easier to find. We can give other reference point also. If I tell, if all of you want to, for instance, Aryan, what if there is no known landmark? If there is no known landmark, it is very difficult to find the location of a place. That is why all these landmarks are made. That is why latitudes, longitudes, compass positions are made, so that there are known landmarks. Because if you don't have a known landmark, it is very difficult to navigate yourself. Okay, so that basically is the need for origin. Now, the second thing that I said here, so I started off saying that motion is not absolute, motion is relative. The second thing I said is you need a reference point for motion. And the third thing I said that the reference point's choice is entirely yours. Where the reference point is, where the starting point is entirely yours. Try to make it prominent, try to make it well known so that other people can also figure out the direction. So if the other person does not know, then you have to discuss. So for instance, if I have to tell you about Mumbai, if I tell you that this place in Mumbai is 20 kilometers from Chowpatty Bazaar, if you don't know what Chowpatty Bazaar is, then you cannot find that place. Then what I will do, I will give a better location, something that is you are more likely to know. So you have to change your reference point so that the other person understands. Okay. So you must have experienced this. Whenever you are telling directions to someone, sometimes the other, for instance, your relatives, when they come to your home, sometimes they don't know how to find your home. So you keep on changing. First you tell them, yes, reference point is a landmark. It's a landmark from which people can find out the positions of different places. That is exactly a reference point, Krishi. So when someone is not knowing the location of a certain place, you immediately, so for instance, I'll give you a very good example. How many of you order stuff from Amazon or Flipkart or all these online places? How many of you, or in your homes, you order stuff from there? Or Swiggy, Uber, you order food from there. Many of you do that, right? So one of the biggest problems in Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy is the delivery boys don't know exactly where your house is, right? So when you get on a call with them, it is very difficult to explain. And when you try to explain to them, what do? You call them and try to tell them a place which they are more likely to know. So that becomes a reference point for them. So if you tell them, come to my house, it is the left of my friend's house, that person will not understand. So you have to tell them a prominent landmark, tell them, come to this place which everyone knows, come 2 kilometers to the left there, take 3 rights, 2 rights. So that's basically how you give a proper reference point. Unless the other person knows the reference point, the delivery will never reach you. Okay. I hope you understood that. I hope that example, give me a yes if that example made you understand the concept of reference point a bit better. All right, perfect. Okay. So that's basically the idea of a reference point. Now, let me come back here and do the last part of today's class. Today's class was anyway supposed to be a fun beginning class. Let's start the last part of today's class. Last part basically describes one's type of motion, which we will continue in the next class, which is motion in a straight line. Okay. Motion in a straight line is something that has a separate name. You will learn it in 11th standard physics. It has a separate name. It's also called as one-dimensional motion. It's also called as one-dimensional motion. It also is called linear motion, and it is abbreviated as 1D motion. Right? These are different examples, and yes, it's also called as rectilinear motion. Rectilinear motion actually is in 2-dimensional motion, so I'm going to come to that slightly later. Let's stick to these 3 names, right? One-dimensional motion, linear motion, and 1D motion. These are short forms. Okay. Can you give me an example of a motion in a straight line? What are examples in your real life that you know of motion in a straight line? Sunlight, very good. That's a very nice example. Motion of sunlight is motion in a straight line. In fact, light is the only thing that we know that moves in a straight line. Even NH4 has turns, right? Any light is known to travel in straight lines. Light always, there are some exceptions to that also. There is something called as diffraction, which is bending of light. Yes, light is a wave. We will study all of this. But in general, light is always known to travel in a straight line. Okay. Dropping a ball, absolutely. Dropping of a ball is an example of a motion in a straight line. So if you drop a ball, assuming there is no air resistance, it will always fall in a straight line. A ball bowled by a fast bowler is not motion in a straight line, Gagan. A ball bowled by a fast bowler is basically motion in 2 dimensions, which we will study later. Absolutely. Elevator. Motion of an elevator is motion in a straight line. Okay. A thing falling by gravity. Anything under the influence of gravity, like dropping of a ball, is all motion in a straight line. Okay. Trains are not exactly motion in a straight line. If you notice train tracks, they sometimes turn also. So you can't really say that motion in a straight. Falling an iPhone, Siddharth, why would you drop your iPhone? So please don't drop your iPhone. That is motion in a straight line, but please don't do things with costly equipment like that. Ameya, rocket is not really a straight line. Rocket follows a curved path, which we will study later, right? Rocket is not really a straight line. Bullet is also not really a straight line. They all seem like straight lines. Falling of water from tap, all of these are examples of straight line. So now let me ask you a quick question to wrap up today. All of you must have seen all of you must have, given that I started off by saying that I love sports, I'm going to ask a sports question. All of you basically must have seen 100-meter races, 200-meter races, 400-meter races, and so on. So, okay, let me ask you a simple question. Who is the best 100-meter Olympics champion that you know? Do you remember the name of the athlete who is the great Olympics 100-meter champion? Usain Bolt, right? Everyone knows he is a champion in 100-meter. He does 200-meter, 400 meters, everything, right? So he runs all those races. So here's my question to you. Okay, my question to you is, which athletic race is one-dimensional motion? Okay, this is my question to you. A 100-meter race, 200-meter race, 400-meter race, or a marathon, which is a 42-kilometer race, which is one-dimensional motion. I'm going to start a poll so that you can answer this. Let me stop sharing my previous poll. Okay, let's see. Okay, I can see a lot of marathon, by the way, is a 42-kilometer race. For those of you who don't know. Okay, I think many of you know your sports really well. I can see around 85 of you answering this, which means you also understand one-dimensional motion really well. I'm going to stop 85 and I'm going to end. So if you remember, and let me enable chat. If you remember, your athletic track basically has a track like this. The 100-meter race is always in the straight track. The 200-meter race basically involves you going like this, halfway. And the 400 involves a full. The Olympic track is always like this. Okay. So that basically means the 100-meter race is Olympic race is a one-dimensional motion like a straight line, right? A drag race car also, but drag race car might drift a bit, but that's okay, right? 200-meter you have to turn, so it's not really motion in a straight line, and hence a 100-meter race is a one-dimensional motion. So it's 8 o'clock, like I promised. I'm going to end class today at 8 o'clock because that's all that is there. There are many more things to study, but today is the first class. I don't want to basically stretch it too much. I'm not going to give you any homework also today. Once the class starts later, once we do a few classes, I'll start giving you homework. All that I want you to do is think about motion, think about how motion affects us, and in the next class, we'll continue on to study about motion in a straight line. I hope all of you enjoyed class. If there are any questions, I'm going to be there for around 5 to 10 minutes to answer. I'll unmute you and we can discuss. But after that, I have one more class to attend, so I'll have to go away after 5 minutes. Okay. I hope all of you enjoyed class. I'm going to give you a quick feedback poll so that you can tell me how class was, and class has ended officially. Okay. All right. If there are any doubts, keep your hands raised. I'm not going to take more than 2 or 3 doubts today because I have a class after that. But from the next class onwards, I will be available for taking multiple doubts. All right, perfect students. Thank you for answering. All right, so that's the end of the class. Anyone who has a doubt basically can stay. Anyone who wants to ask me anything, otherwise you all can leave. It's 8 o'clock. It's dinner time for most of you. So please go and enjoy your dinner. If you have a doubt, please just keep your hands raised. Use the raise hand button. I'll be able to know which of you has a doubt. I'll unmute you. Okay, Vinayak, I think, has a doubt. Vinayak, I'm just...
So what is 1D dimension?
It's not 1D dimension. It's one dimensional. One dimensional means it is moving in a straight line. It's not differing. So it has a single focus. So we call that one or motion. Hello, Vinayak? Hello? Vinayak, could you hear me? I think Vinayak heard me. Okay. I'm going to move on to Priyanka. Yes, Priyanka.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, you said that the sun will not it will not rise from the east and set in the west, no, sir.
Correct.
So the earth will rotate from west to east, sir.
Earth, you can see, basically the earth rotates, but what all that I tried to say is you cannot say for sure that it is the sun that is moving, because the earth is moving, the sun feels like it is moving in the opposite direction, right? So of course the sun starts from the east and ends in the west, but it is not accurate to say that the sun is the one it is moving. The right statement to say is because as according to a person sitting on the earth, the sun moves like that. But if you are sitting on the sun, you will see that the sun is stationary, the earth is moving. So I think your textbooks are correct if it mentioned the statement according to people sitting on the earth. According to people sitting on the earth, of course the sun starts in the east and ends in the west, but you cannot say that it is the sun which is moving and the earth that is stationary. In fact, both of them are moving. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Shweta, I think, also has a question. Yes, Shweta. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good
I
evening.
would like to ask you that
Shweta, your voice is not audible. Can you be louder?
excuse me, sir. As you said that the sun is always revolving around the.
Shweta, your voice is very feeble. Shweta, I can't hear you.
Sir, you said that the sun is always revolving around the galaxy. How can you prove that, sir?
How can it?
Prove.
How can you prove that? So it's a very good question actually. See, basically the way this is done is you try to observe the positions of the other stars, right? When they start basically changing their positions, that means we are also moving, right? So this is what astronomers have been doing. So there's this, I'll send you some nice links on your group, which will tell you basically that everything is moving around everything, okay? It's difficult for me to explain like this. The proof of that is something that has puzzled the biggest astronomers of the world. I'll try to send you some resources for you to understand how this happens, okay? Hello?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. So basically,
Thank you, sir.
observe the positions of other things and based on that, try to figure out whether we are moving or not. That's the short summary of what you were asking.
Okay.
All right, Shweta. Absolutely, Sai. According to any object, that object is always at rest. Absolutely. That's a very astute observation. I will always think I am at rest. Everyone else might think I'm moving, but I will always think I'm at rest. So Ashutosh, why does rain splash on our face if we start running? Because the moment we start running, the rain starts as appearing to be at an angle to us. That's why it starts splashing on our face. Because now we are moving like this, the rain is moving like this, the net speed of this is basically coming like this. Ameya, don't worry about notes. Today was the first class. We will study notes in detail in the next class. Today was an introductory class, so don't worry about notes. Okay? I will give you enough notes to make sure that all your exam stuff is covered. Sachin, yes, instantaneous speed can be same as instantaneous velocity. That happens when speed and velocity are in a straight line. In a straight line motion, instantaneous speed is instantaneous velocity. Yes, Suhani, please follow the NCERT textbook for reference. That is your gospel. That is what you need to refer to. And that's what we will do most of our classes through. I will give you some extra stuff, but most of your stuff will be through the NCERT. So yes, we can't say everything is at rest. So that's what, there is no absolute truth. You can believe depending on whatever, from your frame, whatever is the truth is the truth for you. So truth is all relative, it's not absolute. Sridevi, you have asked me a very difficult question. I honestly do not know what is the fastest moving object in the whole world. Light is considered the fastest. Nothing is considered to travel faster than light, but light is not an object. It's a form of energy. I will have to find this out. I will find this out and let you know in the next class. Yeah, I will provide notes. Don't worry. Oh, okay. So your name is also different. Okay, perfect. I'll change all your names. I will learn your names in a few classes. Don't worry. All right, guys. I have one more class to attend. I will answer a lot of your questions in the next class also. I hope this was fascinating for you, and your interest in physics and science has been enlightened a bit. And I hope to answer many of your questions in the next class. Thank you, students. I will make sure that I come early in the next class and answer some of your pending doubts. Okay. All right, students. Thank you.